Alex, good to see you, man.
You too.
I'd love. I'm excited that we've kind of been able to reconnect and chat a little bit. And I just want to kind of remind anyone who might watch this because they hear me brag about you a lot, Alex. By the way, it's a real feather in my cap to say an alumni of our peer teams went on and successfully sold his business and carries on. So I'm excited to reconnect and hear some of your stories. We worked somewhat closely together 10 years ago, if we can believe that. Maybe like 12 was when we started working together.
Yeah.
And just kind of hear more about that period of your time as an MSP owner, and just kind of have some fun. Yeah, you're always a pretty self-deprecating guy, so hopefully you won't beat yourself up too much, and we can hear some wins along the way. But I'd love to kick us off with a particular question, and I get a very similar answer for most guys, and I want to see if the trend continues with you. So, how did you get started in IT, and what led you to launch an MSP?
On accident,
Yeah.
is probably the answer that a lot of folks give, and mine's no different. I always knew I liked computers. I was tinkering with computers from like second grade, playing with an Apple IIe in the classroom and things like that. My mom was a computer programmer growing up. She wrote software for AS400 mainframes, and so they were just always in the house. They were always, computers were always around. I remember buying magazines and hand typing in games to play and saving them to a cassette tape on a Tandy TRS-80. Way back in the day. But I just always knew I wanted to do something around computers. I actually went to college for programming because mom was a programmer. I thought that was what I was going to do, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. It was as boring as sitting staring at spreadsheets being an accountant. I don't have the patience to code. So I kind of stepped away from it. Dropped out of college 3 times trying to figure out who I wanted to be when I grew up. Worked retail for quite a while and some terrible jobs that everybody should have to do in their life to build perspective. And then one day I decided I didn't want to work the hours I was working in retail. I took a huge pay cut and I went backwards and I went to go work in a call center. And we ended up doing tech support for one of the first tablet computers that this was, I don't know, 2000, 1999, 2000. And we sat there for 11 months waiting for the phone to ring. And we took 4 phone calls in 11 months. The product fell completely flat. Windows wasn't ready for a tablet computer back then. The thing was as thick as a brick, and designed to be carried around on construction sites, and the world just wasn't ready for it. But we did tech support for this thing. When they finally went to shut it down, they grabbed a few of us and said, "Hey, if you want to take this aptitude test, we're spinning up this Dell tech support thing. We want a contract. We're going to do some Dell tech support." And so we built Dell tech support in Dover, Delaware. We hired 2,000 people, taught them on week 1 of training. We taught them the difference between left click and right click on a mouse. By week 3, they were teaching Dell tech support. So if you think your Dell tech support sucks, they get 3 weeks of training before they hit the phone, or at least they did that at that point in time. So no wonder it sucked. And we spun up 2,000 seats in little rinky-dink Dover, Delaware, a town of 40,000 people. So but then 2 years later, we lost that contract to India. Our entire call center got shut down. And I was the first one to go. I was running corporate training. They called me in the office and said, "Hey, we're not going to be training anybody because this whole thing's getting shut down." And off I went. So I left work that day, and they walked me out with all my stuff in a box. And I'm driving home. I just stopped at the little break fix little computer shop that my mom's working in a lobby suite upstairs with 3 other developers programming for an AS400. And I just stopped in and went, "Hey, Mom, you'll never believe what happened to me today." And the guy that owned the shop said, "Well, I've been looking for an excuse to retire. Why don't you take my job?" And he literally put his hand in his pocket, pulled out the keys, and set them on the counter.
Bullshit.
Swear to God.
That's crazy.
We had known him for years. Like he was kind of a family friend. But he gave me my opportunity. And I really enjoyed it. It was all break fix back then. It's 2002. It was all break fix back then. We were slinging technicians up and down town. We were pushing a bunch of hardware. The company was actually named Secure Data because when they started the company, they thought that they would just be Iron Mountain, the offsite backup company, and they'd run around town and change people's backups. But that didn't pan out, so they pivoted, and that was kind of who they became. But I found out really quickly, and you already know this because you've known me for a long time, I'm a terrible employee. And I butted heads with the owner's daughter, who was the CFO. And I just knew blood's thicker than water. One day I was going to come up on the short end of that stick. They were wonderful to me. They treated me really well. And I sat down with them one day and said, "Thank you so much for the opportunity. But eventually this is going to blow up in both of our faces. And I'd like to leave here on good terms." So I did. Um, I signed a non-compete, so I was the assistant manager and the manager at Radio Shack for a little while. I was filled vending machines for a year, just working nights, trying to figure out how to start my own business and what I was going to do next. I wanted to free up as much time as I could, and then just on accident, as I was ending the getting to the end of that 2-year non-compete, I ran into a guy who was selling a little break fix computer store. He was actually just going to close it, and I said, "Dude, your company's got to be worth something." Well, my biggest contract is this thing out at Procter and Gamble. I've got an HP contract. I'm going to go take that and do it full time. And yeah, this thing really doesn't have a whole lot other than that. And I went, "Hey man, let me come hang out with you at work for a couple days and just see what's going on in your business. And maybe there's some there." So I gave him $8,000 for the company.
Wow.
It was a dumpster. It was a dumpster fire. It was in an old shopping mall. The ceiling tiles were falling in. There was black mold above the ceiling. I was never sicker than when I worked in that place for a couple of weeks. Spent $8,000 to buy it and another $8,000 to retrofit a place across the street where we moved it immediately after that. And so and that was it. Like, we started a brand new kind of break fix computer shop. Um, Spent the first couple of years doing mom and pop stuff. The company I bought came with one commercial customer.
Wow.
And when I sold 17 years later, we still had that one commercial customer. And instead of spending about $1,000 a month with us, they were spending closer to 10.
Dang. All right. Well, this is okay. So I knew bits. I think the pieces I knew were that you worked with something around the tablet, and I remember you worked at Radio Shack. But I somewhere along the way, I don't recall all of these pieces. So then you fire up the business. Did you call it Delaware Micro from the jump?
That was the company name when I bought it. Never
Just
changed.
kept it. Okay. So then, were there any employees?
One. There was one
Okay.
part-time employee. I had the company for 48 hours when his wife called me
Yeah.
and said, the old owner owes my husband back pay, and you're going to pay it all right now.
Oh.
I guess she thought I had money.
Yeah. Right.
I did not. Newsflash. I was a 3-time college dropout who was working a shitty job at a call center. I did not have money. So I told her not only was that not going to happen, but that I could no longer employ her husband if she was calling and threatening me. So I went from 1 employee to 0 employees within 48 hours.
Oh,
I'd forgotten all about that. Thanks for drumming that up.
yeah. Good times.
I'll drink a little extra tonight to think about that one.
There you go. So I mean, how old were you at the time? You were 20s, 27. Okay. So that's a lot of stress. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So how long did you go before you made that first hire and said, "Oh, you're a W-2 hire now"?
It was we hired part-time out of a local community or out of a local VOTEC school first. So it was a while before we hired a full-timer. And I'm not sure I even remember how long it was, but it was probably 2 years. I had a part-time network engineer he kind of became my mentor. The guy was brilliant. He was one of the senior network engineers at the state of Delaware, and he'd moonlight with me for a few extra bucks, but mostly because he liked to play with the cool projects we got to tinker around with. And then we had this kid who started with us when he was 15, and we had to sign work permits, and his parents had to drive him to work every day. And then he stayed with me till he went off to college. And before we knew it, like by 2008, that happened we started around 2004. By 2008, we were 11 people.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's pretty.
We were incredibly fat and bloated. We were super inefficient. We were throwing bodies at problems. We were still a break fix shop. That was the year we became an MSP, but that was also the year the economy turned upside down, right? Remember 2008, life caught on fire for all of us. We were doing a lot of break fix work for a little bank called M&T Bank. They had 1 branch or 2 branches in Delaware. They had a data center in Delaware. And then they had surrounding Eastern Shore, Maryland branches. And we used to drive around and re-image workstations with ghost CDs. We'd drive out to a branch. We'd stick a CD in. We'd load the image. We'd stick another CD in and load all the platform applications. And they spent $30,000 or $40,000 a year with us. It was a great piece of business. In the 2008 economic collapse, they acquired my local bank where I did my banking. And now they had 47 branches local, an entire local IT department, and my phone just stopped ringing.
Yeah.
So on top of all my customers contracting 5 to 10% and the economy getting stupid, and losing this chunk of business out the door, that all just compounded to, holy crap, we have a real problem here. And
Mhm.
that was the first time in my life I ever had to sit down with my staff and go, I'm not sure we can make payroll.
Mm.
I always did make payroll, but we probably wouldn't have if one of my guys hadn't gone on to do something else, and another one went into the military at that time, and we actually cut 2 headcount on accident. Like, it just wasn't planned, and we just never
Mm.
backfilled those jobs. Um, and then at the exact same time, we took everybody to 35 hours a week for, I think it was 6 weeks or 8 weeks or something like that, when things got really tight. We just sat down with everybody and said, look, we've got to make a decision here. We either have to let somebody go or everybody takes the haircut together. And to my team's credit, everybody agreed that we should take the haircut together. And so then we're a team of 10 and 9 at that point. And my biggest customer, that only commercial customer I had at the time, when we bought the company, they weren't the only one by then, but they came to me and said, we got to figure out how to cut costs. Like, we're losing they were a nonprofit, we're losing all our government grant funding, this, that, the other. We went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I did the thing that you'll laugh, because I think probably half of your customers have done this at some point. I did the thing that everybody does. I found lab tech. I found these 5 guys in a basement in Ohio. I think we were like their 45th customer or something like that. We bought this software, and we told our customer, we can stop driving to all your locations. That'll help you save a little bit of money. We can do this managed services thing. And we invented managed services, and we were one of the first providers in Delaware to do it. And, I say invented, but,
Right.
we went the route of everybody else, and we did the same stupid thing that everybody else does. We took the money they had spent last year, we divided
Mhm.
it by 12, and then divided it by the number of workstations we had. And that's how we came up with how much we would charge for managed services. And I spent the next decade trying to get up in that organization and fighting against my $47 a month managed services. So
So you were getting just kind of kicked in the teeth over and over and over again. Was there a moment that was like, oh, okay, life is feeling better. We've got our arms around this thing. Now we can
no,
just
no,
no.
there was not. There was not. I
Okay.
mean, we haven't scratched the surface yet. In 2007, I went, "Hey, I've got this thing called a Motorola Q. It's got Windows on it, and I have Outlook on
Mm,
it. Like,
mhm,
this is the future. This is where everything's going." And
mhm,
I had worked for Verizon for 2 years growing up. And I'm like, this is where everything's going. I bought a Verizon wireless retailer in 2007,
uh-huh,
that went out of business in 2008. The financial collapse absolutely crushed it. So any money I had made, it went into that, and absolutely, lost all that. Um, and then, geez, it would have been closer to 2017. I started a copier company. My business partner in the copier company stole his lead list from his old employer, and we got sued out of business. So no, there was nowhere in the journey did I look back and go, I have it all figured out. In fact, I'm happy to admit I sold the MSP because I was at a point where I was firing my director of operations, and my fiance and I sat down and said, and I'd moved an hour away at this point, and we were building Lifecycle Insights, and we sat down and said, either I have to go work, much longer hours to bring in and hire a new COO and find the right person in a little rinky-dink Dover, Delaware, that wasn't easy. I'd failed at it for going on 17 years in a row. I'd never really found that ops person who could help manage my ADD and my terrible management style. And we just sat down and had the conversation, like, what do we do? And my attorney called me one day and said, I met the guy who's going to buy your MSP. And keep in mind, this is in the middle of COVID. I sold in August of 2020. Um, so I said, Ryan, I appreciate that, but I've got a dry cleaner whose revenue is down 95% because all of their commercial dry cleaning business is gone, and nobody's going to parties, and nothing's happening. Um, all of my business is contracting again. It felt like 2008 all over again.
mhm,
So nobody's going to buy this for what it's worth. And he says, Alex, you pay me a lot of money to do what I tell you to do.
mm.
Shut the F up and take the phone call.
Right.
So I did.
Right.
And 45 days later, I didn't own an MSP. I came home and sat down with Jess, and I said, hey, I got an offer from my company. It's fair, but it's not good. And I always thought I was going to work here till I was 65, and either sell it or die in a server room somewhere. And for the first time in my life, I can see there's something else I'm really good at, and we're building this life cycle thing. And at this point, it's so super early. We're still taking a flyer, but I feel like I should go take a flyer on this thing. Um, but I haven't done a good enough job saving for retirement because I always thought I'd just sell the company for millions and millions of dollars because every startup thinks that.
Mhm.
Um, Consequently, I was wrong. But here I am thinking, I'm going to put a few $100,000 in the bank, and that's going to be great. But doesn't move the needle on the retirement number if I go spend it all while I'm building lifecycle insights.
Right.
We agreed that we could live on her salary, and keep in mind she was just my fiance at the time. We weren't married. Um, she agreed that we could tough it out. And 3 years later, we sold Lifecycle Insights, and that was truly life changing money. So the moral of my story is failing forward is some form of success. And it's been, I feel like it's been one tripping over yourself, failing forward step after another. But I learn a little something every step, and try not to make the same mistakes twice. And every time it gets a little easier.
So that 12, 17 years, whatever we want to call that, of owning Delaware Micro,
16 and a half.
16 and a half, you never really got to breathe. It
No,
really was
no.
just one calamity after the next.
I mean, I say that, but there was a point at which I was working at Delaware Micro so little that I was able to go build lifecycle insights in the process. Like it was definitely a thing that I was able to do. But it's also and I had great partners at Lifecycle. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But when my ops manager fizzled, it was a matter of I don't necessarily have room, and of course the dog's going to start barking now.
Yeah.
But
Dang. Okay. So that was, and I knew you for much of the, 2012 to 17 or whatever it was. So I had kind of this front row seat, and you wore it well, Alex. I remember that you were always optimistic. You were
yeah,
always kind of thinking about what's next. And one of the things that I really, give you credit for, sometimes I'm making fun of you and sometimes I'm praising you, and I'm saying, look, Alex will tell you he was not, the most successful MSP, but the thing that he did amazing was this kind of network refresh, budgeting with the clients. I can think of two or three, meeting rooms at shitty Hampton Inns, wherever we would meet, and you kind of laying out what you did. And I just was like, this guy's got it figured out. This is insane. You were so good at that. Was that one of the things that kind of, had you not been gifted or great at that, would Delaware Micro have struggled even more?
oh
Or
yeah, we probably wouldn't have made it.
okay,
If you so I'll tell you the story behind all that.
yeah.
I went down to one of my customers, and he was one of my favorite humans that I ever worked with. And I showed up in his office one day and said, "Hey, when does XP going to die?" I should have told you this sooner. And I was running around dealing with some other big customers. And what I was doing was I was dealing with my full managed customers and not my these hybrid, patching only customers that we used to do way back then. And I showed up and said, "You're going to need to spend $30,000, and you got to spend it in the next 6 months."
Mhm.
And he went, "If you ever do that to me again, I will
Mhm.
drag you out back and shoot you."
Right.
And this is a redneck in southern Delaware with a shotgun rack and a fishing pole in the back of his truck.
Kind of
Right?
means it.
I wasn't sure, but I wasn't going to risk it. So I'm recanting this story after hours one evening, sitting around with my buddy who worked for the state of Delaware, and he's like, "You know how we deal with this state, right?" I'm like, "No, please tell me." He's like, "When we buy something, we know when we're going to refresh it. We buy it
Mm.
today, and we know 4 years from now we have to throw it away. 5 years from now we have to throw it away. We put a date on it the day it comes in the door, and we depreciate it and we budget for its replacement. Why don't you guys do that?" And I'm
Mhm.
like, "That's brilliant."
Yeah.
Then we went on the search for tools for it, and the tool didn't really exist. ScalePad was the best real inventory tool that we had, but all it told me was when the warranty expired.
Mhm.
And so we used Warranty Master at the time, now ScalePad, to do that. And I went to them and said, "Hey guys, it would be really cool if you just add a couple of you know fields to your reports over here, so I could tell you already know purchase date. Like, let me put in a lifespan and an expiration date and an end of life cost, and I'll have a really cool report that I can use with my customer." And they kind of went, "Well, that's adorable, kid, but we sell warranties. Go back and sit in your corner, and nobody wants that."
Mhm.
And so I bitched about it for a couple of years, and then I found Marnie Stockman and I were playing volleyball at a gym one night, walking out of the gym. She goes, "Hey, I got a couple developers and we're looking for a problem to solve." And I went, "Got one." And it turned into Lifecycle Insights.
Right.
And it's ironic that for not building me a couple $1,000 report that ScalePad ended up buying us to make us go away at the end. But great journey along the way, and
No.
great humans at ScalePad. They just they weren't aligned with us at the time, and now they're leading the charge along those things. So they've definitely figured it out.
So I'm sure that there's many parts of your story that we can all relate to. Yours in the way you tell the story, it just sounds like a miserable time, but clearly it
I was
wasn't.
having fun the whole
Oh,
time. Like
that's good.
like you said, like I am really good at rolling with the punches.
Yes.
I am super optimistic, even here at Empath. Like my two business partners are the Debbie Downers, and I'm the optimistic one. Um, and Josh, it comes with being comfortable in my own skin at sales.
Yes.
It's not that I think I'm some exceptional thought leader or some exceptional visionary that's going to solve the world's problems. I just know I can outsell the stuff that happens behind you. And
Hmm.
so, keep looking forward, keep going out to sell the next thing. And cash flow cures all problems.
Pretty true.
And
Pretty
and
true.
and they're really, in 17 years of business, or 17 years as an MSP and now 5 years as a SaaS company, have yet to find a problem that cash flow can't solve.
So let me ask you this: having gone through that journey, having success in phase two here, uh, if you had to start an MSP today, just gun to the head,
Yeah.
hey, you have nothing, you got to start an MSP today. What would you do different? What would be something that you would change from V1 to V2?
Kyle and I actually did this as a webinar topic a month ago.
Oh,
And
cool.
my take is, everyone seems to be going left. I'm going right.
Okay.
So if I were starting an MSP from zero today, I wouldn't take a single customer who runs Microsoft Office.
Mm.
I would be a Google first, Google only MSP. I'd
Ah.
really push for Chromebooks, but I might support some Mac if I had to.
Mm-hmm.
At my MSP, we did some K-12 work,
Yep.
and it would take me one engineer to support 2,700 Chromebooks.
Right.
The numbers on Windows support. It's somewhere between one engineer to 250 or 300 endpoints.
Mm-hmm.
So the savings there is just astronomical. There are a ton of startups out there that don't have real MSP support services,
Mm-hmm.
and most MSPs, when they find a startup, they immediately walk in the door and try and move them over to Microsoft Office and the Microsoft suite. For some reason, as much as Microsoft continues to punch MSPs in the nose, they continue to come back. They have a little bit of battered wife syndrome there.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft chips away at their margins, takes away their platinum, plastic, bronze status, whatever. Moves the needle every couple of years. Has licensing you don't understand and can't figure out, and yet we just keep coming back for more because somehow we've convinced ourselves it's the best thing in the world. Um, I said this from stage at a conference one day and said, "How many of you in here have a G Suite customer that it just annoys you that they won't change?" And 80% of the room raised their hand. Said, "How
Mm.
many of you would sell me that contract and sell me that customer if I came to you with a fair offer tomorrow?" And 50% of the room kept their hand up.
Wow.
What's the number one problem every startup MSP has? I don't know where to get customers.
Right.
If you can
Right.
solve that problem, and I
Yeah.
think we've already figured out how to solve it, growing your business wouldn't be that hard. Wouldn't be nearly as daunting as it was for the rest of us.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
so that's my take on it. I think as MSPs, we come to these big conferences, we drink the Kool-Aid, we go to a peer group. No offense to peer groups, because mine is where I learned the difference between a P&L and a budget, or I'm sorry, between a P&L and a balance sheet. I learned a ton in my peer groups, and they were the most valuable time of my growth as a leader. Um, I've said this to you before, like is that Bering McKinley changed how I ran my business, and it made it a business instead of just a hobby.
Mm.
But the thing that we all forget is when we go to a peer group or to a big event or listen to the big companies that steer this industry, they teach us all how to be an MSP, which teaches us all how to sound just like everybody else. And I
Yeah.
do not want to walk in the door being a commodity. If you look
Right.
at what we're building at Empath, we're having to explain to people what Empath is because nobody else does it.
That's
We
right.
are 100% blue ocean. At Lifecycle, we had a few kind of competitors, and more when we finished than we did when we started. But I'm a believer that you've got to find something that differentiates you. And at most MSPs, we look, sound, and feel just like everybody else. And we go in the door, what can we say? I hire the best people. I pick the best tools. I answer the phone the fastest. It's all
Right.
bullshit. And it's the same thing that the next sales guy's going to say. If
Yeah.
you can't walk in the door and say, the thing that's different about working with me is, and come up with something real,
Hmm.
then you are a commodity. And our industry is racing to commoditization faster than any I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I'm not on the AI hype train that AI is going to mean the end of all of our technicians or any of that BS. We're
Mhm.
years from any of that being realistic. But we are all going to the same conferences. We're all listening to the same 6 talking heads. We're all listening to the same 10 companies who are driving us to commoditization so we can sell more of their licensing. And that is a thing that we have to be aware of. And
Yeah,
every day we have to go to work and say, what makes me different?
that's right. Well, that's I couldn't agree more. I think that's a fascinating take. Of all the things that I could have predicted you would say and what you would do if you started an MSP from scratch, uh, your answer,
Google wasn't on the bingo card.
yeah, I love it though. That's so cool. That's awesome. And so on this topic of the 6 talking heads, the racing towards commoditization, in all of that kind of content of what's kind of part of the talk track, what's a myth you hear in this MSP space that drives you crazy?
Oof. If I only had more leads, my business would be bigger. I
Okay.
close I close all the opportunities I get in front of. I just don't get enough opportunities.
Yes. Go ahead.
That one makes me nutty because I immediately follow that up and say, well, what are you doing to generate opportunities?
Right.
Well, I posted on LinkedIn 7 times and somehow my phone's not ringing off the hook. I paid somebody else to do advertising for me, and they made me sound just like everybody else. They sold me commodity advertising, and that didn't work. And I hired a sales guy and didn't give him any marketing or any support, and he failed. I just don't get it. It's too hard to generate business in this industry. That one just kills me because you have one of 2 things happening there. I close all the ones I get in front of. Well, of course you do, because they're referrals or somebody that, the business of the guy whose kid plays on your kid's soccer team and you've been talking about. Like, yeah, those are easy to close. The ones that are hard to close are the ones who don't know you from Adam. If you don't have a 40% ish close rate, you're too cheap, or you're only dealing with people you know anyway.
Right.
So, the reality is we all think sales is hard and that we're bad at it. In reality, we get 10 to 12 at bats a year. Michael Jordan wasn't good at basketball because he shot 12 free throws a year. He
All
was
right.
good because he practiced 3 times a freaking day.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
So we think sales is a gift and an innate thing that people are just born with. It
Mhm.
is a practiced absolute talent. It's a muscle. And if you don't exercise that muscle, it breaks.
That's
And
right.
I realized it when we hired our first salespeople here at Empath. We hired 2 seasoned sales guys. They're very good at their job.
Hmm.
They come in the door, and I sit down and listen to them start doing their sales pitches. Like, first they sat on our demos, and then they start doing their demos, and I hear them saying things. I'm like, I know better than that. I should have been saying that the whole freaking time. And what they're doing is reminding me that that while I'm selling, I haven't been exercising that muscle and practicing and getting coached and
Mhm.
really refreshing that muscle.
Yeah.
I'm a good sales guy, and I always will be. There's innately there. I've learned enough. I've been through it for my whole life. I've spent my whole life there. Doesn't mean you don't get lazy and forget things and break things. So, I would say the most valuable money you can spend is on a sales coach,
Mhm.
but don't spend that money if you're not going to do the work to do the outreach.
Yeah.
I would say every MSP owner on the planet should make 5 phone calls a day.
Mhm.
If you can't find the time to dial the phone 5 times a day, and you can't tell me that if you can't find something that is less important than that to scratch off your calendar,
It
then you're
gets
not serious
really
about growing your business.
interesting because your observations I couldn't agree with more. And what gets really interesting in going a little bit deeper with these MSPs is I've had some version of that conversation with them where, hey, you don't feel comfortable because you don't practice because the lead isn't easy for you to get. They
And we don't practice outside of it because it's uncomfortable, right? I'm not comfortable
Absolutely.
because I don't practice, and I don't practice because it's uncomfortable.
There you go. Then they
Um,
kind of do this retracting a little bit of, um, I don't want to grow right now anyway. I want to get I want to fix service, or I don't really. I'm not trying to explode. If I go do that, I'm going to get too much business and my service will break.
What
Like
a
you start,
terrible problem to have.
right? It's
Right? I
just
have
this
too
kind
much
of
business. Damn.
self-defense mechanism or protection mechanism that comes in, and it's like, I mean, I need an industrial psychologist to come in and break you of this stuff that you're like anchoring down in your head with to not do that thing that's going to be uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
it's which and so I'll ask you this question. What does Alex Farling say the average size of an MSP is today here in 2025?
My guess from everything that I know is 7 to 10 employees, $1.5 to $2 million.
Yeah. That's exactly what we observe.
Yeah.
You know, it was pre-COVID, it was $1 million.
Yep.
You
Pre
know,
cybersecurity, right? Right. When we started pushing cyber as a add-on and or as an additional selling point, we were able to raise per seat prices,
so that's
and we've gone
I
from $100 a seat to closer to 200.
that might be it. I hadn't assigned that. I had
Step back and
assigned
look at it and start asking this question: how many customers does the average MSP have? That number hasn't changed in the last 5 years.
yeah, 40 to
40 to
60.
60, right?
Yeah, all day
And
long. Yeah.
so we're just charging those customers twice as much. And unfortunately, in a lot of cases, we haven't gone back and justified our value. And all the MSPs I talk to, they're like, "Oh, my biggest customer's leaving, and by the way, I don't have a sales program and I can't replace them." The problem is, I'm charging them twice as much, and I never went back and delivered twice as much value,
Right.
at least not in their eyes. So, I love the guys who say, "I don't have time to sell." They're my favorite because I just go, "Do me a favor, open your phone." What do you mean? Open your phone. I just want to run a little exercise. Open your phone, go to settings, open screen time.
Yes. Yes.
Now say
Yes.
those words to me again. I don't have time to sell.
Well, here, let me ask you this. My biggest time wasters throughout the day is I play chess. After any, 45, 90-minute sprint, I go and play chess for 25 to 30 minutes like an idiot. Did you have one of those things when you owned your MSP where it's like, what am I doing right now? Why is this a thing?
It was video games until it wasn't,
Yeah.
and I don't know at what point that happened. I don't really game anymore. Occasionally, a
Mhm.
little bit here and there.
Mhm.
It's certainly doom scrolling Reddit now.
Yes.
Reddit and LinkedIn. I don't do Facebook. I'm over Facebook. I'm on there, but not on there.
Right.
It's doom scrolling Reddit and LinkedIn today, and I justify it as being business related. But if you look at your list of subreddits, it's like r/MSP and a couple other ones, and then it's like, oh yeah, it's Home Lab and all the cool nerdy stuff that
Yes.
comes with just enjoying nerdy stuff. Um, so yeah, I could spend way too much time on Reddit on the data hoarder MSP, figuring
Right.
out how to reconfigure my Plex server, but none of that adds value to the business. And
It
but
is.
there's also a thing where you've got to have the thing that helps you decompress.
Yes.
Something I wasn't good at my MSP was turning it off and decompressing.
Mm,
I wasn't good at walking away from it, and I wish I had been better at. The fallacy that I convinced myself of was if I walk away, the place will burn down and I'll
right.
lose the company. And now I don't hesitate to do that. And what do you know? The company survives every single time.
That's right. That's
Of all
right.
the things that were going to put me out of business, a vacation wasn't one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. That I think both of those observations that yes, owners ourselves, it seems included, don't have time for things when in fact we do. But then also that just stop. That whatever you're doing for that, until 10 o'clock at night, is that really going to be the thing that, increased value for you, your customers, your business a year from now? Like we shared that acquaintance down in Arizona with all the kids. I won't say his name, but remember who know what I'm talking about?
Saint B, yeah.
Yes, that's right. And he just, I still, if I think of him, I don't think of him. I don't have a mental image of him sitting in our peer team meetings. My mental image of him is in a living room that I never actually saw, sitting on the couch, surrounded by kids, just banging away on his computer, until 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
He is my poster child from you just don't stop. But
Yep.
those things is so okay. That sounds admirable. Look at you. But at the same time, it's like you're doing tasks in the middle of the night. You're not working on strategy. You're not, building your next, sales plan. You are doing tasks. And it drove me nuts on his behalf. So I think there is something to that. Just why do we applaud ourselves for working until midnight, 4 days a week? It's not grind mode, it's inefficient mode, or it's just kind of scratching an itch that you haven't solved for. And really all you're doing is burning yourself out.
And the thing I wish I had learned sooner, and I learned this after I became a vendor. I listened to a couple MSPs actually who were talking about it. They had started hiring executive assistants, and they'd hired out of the Philippines, and they'd hire somebody for a fraction of what we would spend over here.
Right.
They started to find the low value things that EA could do for them that weren't high security requirements, weren't going to put their business at risk, but just managing my calendar, man. Let somebody else deal with that. I don't have to deal with that. Manage some of the emails that are just obvious time wasters.
Yes.
Make sure that when I travel, all my travel stuff's taken care of.
Right.
Take those things off my plate. And so off and on for the last 5 years or so, I've had an executive assistant. I just rehired one after losing the one that I had. My first one actually still works for Empath. He came with me from Lifecycle Insights over to Empath and is still here, and he's promoted well beyond being an executive assistant. He works with our content creation team and actually is a producer for our content creation team. He's just outgrown the entry level job that he had, which is amazing. But there is a superpower in saying this is busy work. This is a task. This is something I can hand off. And it's so hard as an MSP owner because we've sold ourselves into a corner. There's not a lot of professional services revenue coming in the door. I hear that number 20%, 15%. Some of the big ones now are 30%. I think we're going to take a pivot where we go back to a lot of that kind of revenue, but we're in a world where the owner doesn't feel like they can go resell their time again to add back value. So if I can find somebody who's $5, $6, $7, $8 an hour that can go do some work for me, that's great. If I can go sell one more hour of my time that week or 2 more hours of my time that week, if I'm not selling my time, if everything's in these managed services deals, now it's tough to justify adding that expense. I only see it as an expense.
Right.
I could go sell just a couple hours of professional services. Easy. Or if I had a sales machine that I could invest that time into that I knew was going to generate cash for the company, easy. I can justify that. You pick up a $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month executive assistant. Easy. That's one closed contract.
That's right.
And in the SaaS company, we look at it differently, right? Because we're, MSPs. I joke that MSPs stack $100 bills because every contract is $2,500, $3,500, whatever. SaaS companies, man, we're stacking nickels. Like every customer's $149, $249, whatever. It takes a lot to get there. But we also close a lot more business, right? So it's nothing for me to go $5 an hour. If I could pay somebody $5 an hour to take some tasks off my plate, I'll pay them full time whether they're working or not. Because I know if I schmooze one more dude and get one more deal, like it pays for it. Life is good. And that's where I think having a sales focused business is the most important thing you can do. Absolutely. If I had realized in the one piece of advice you never gave me, and I wish you had, you should have been a bigger asshole and told me this. I'm a good sales guy. I'm a shitty CEO.
Yeah.
And if I had hired a CEO, I probably would have enjoyed my MSP more.
Yeah.
I'm very ADHD. I hate doing the same thing 2 days in a row. I want that challenge. I'm a great starter and a terrible finisher.
Yes.
If you give me a project, like I can build the outline, I can get everything structured, I can get everybody ready to go and turn them loose to go do it. But man, if you want me to dot the I's and cross the T's, that project is going to sit for a long time and it's not going to get done well. And if I had learned that way back then and been coachable enough to hear it, and maybe you said it and I was just a hard-headed a-hole too much to hear it, but if I had learned that back then, I think my life as an MSP would have been easier. At Lifecycle, I abdicated the CEO job because I thought I had to go be the MSP a CEO because it was still a thing, it was still running. At Empath, I abdicated it because somewhere along the line I learned I'm not a very good CEO, but I'm very good at what I do. I make a lot of noise. I can create a lot of interest. I can sell a lot of business. I can run a revenue team. Those are things that I'm really good at. And I think it's okay to say CEO isn't my superpower. And that's an ego hit for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
But man, I think being able to say it is the biggest weight you can lift off your shoulders. To be able to say, I can hire somebody to do that.
Isn't that what's fascinating about that is, you started off saying, you started your MSP accidentally. And that is 100% the answer I hear
90%.
almost every time, right? 90% of the time. what's fascinating is you know when you're in the middle of your MSP, boy, I accidentally did this. That's way back in your head, but suddenly you develop this, and I don't say ego in a bad way, just descriptive. This ego that says, "Well, I have to be the CEO. I am the
I'm a
CEO."
CEO. I'm a C-level executive in a 6-person company. Like,
Yes, yes, and it's
you
like
own your job, dude. Come on.
absolutely
And
just
I was
settle.
that guy. Like I joke about that because I'm making fun of me. Like I was that guy who was like, I'm a C-level executive, and I love it when I meet an MSP and they're like, I'm the CEO, this is my COO, this is my CFO, and I'm like, oh great, how many people are in the company? 7.
Right,
Like,
right.
okay, great, you're the CEO of 7. That is, you own your job.
Yes,
And you should make sure that you, as you grow, you find your way into the job you're good at, not the job that your ego puts you in. Because
yes.
I literally generated more enterprise value in 3.5 years at Lifecycle Insights than I did in 17 years as an MSP owner. And it's not close. It's not a rounding error. It's not
Right,
even close. And
right.
I've generated more enterprise value in a year and a half at Empath than I did in 3.5 years at Lifecycle Insights. Like you figure out what you're good at, and you just learn to move at such pace and at such scale that it's silly. And I go back and look at how immature operationally we were as an MSP, and then I look at how quickly we got a little more mature at Lifecycle, and now here we are, a year and a half into this. We are a really mature company. If somebody from a year and a half old startup came walking in the door here, they go, "Oh my God, you guys have it together." And all we look at is, crap, there's little things broken everywhere.
Right.
And so the perspective of having done it a couple of times, you look back and perspective's different, and you see the things that matter, and you fix the thing that matters. And you're probably nitpicking yourself 2 years ahead of where you were the last go round. And I think that's really powerful too. Like if you're thinking about selling your MSP, um, there's a world where that doesn't have to be the end of it. You can go build another MSP. You can go build a security company. You can go build a SaaS solution. Everybody's building a SaaS solution. You should come join us. It's fun on this side. Your MSPs need 27 more vendors. Um, it is, but it opened my eyes to the fact that um, finding your happy place to work,
Hmm.
and I mean that as the responsibilities that you have, not necessarily the physical place that you work.
Hmm.
Um, is more freeing than working for yourself or than any other thing that you're going to do.
Amen.
And
Amen.
I owned 100% of that headache at the MSP. I own 33% of life of Empath here, and I'm
That's
way
right.
happy, right? Because we have a CEO who does the things that I was bad at, and can keep those moving while I go chase revenue.
Well, let me ask you this. So let's kind of imagine that just semi pretty typical MSP, $1.5 million. Maybe they're doing good and they're doing 10% net profit, and they're trying to make 150,000 take home to themselves, or pay to themselves. What's your take on saying, I can't afford a CEO, but should I bring in a partner? Should I bring in somebody to say, I can't pay you much, but I'll give you some equity in that
Um,
MSP that's likely not really kind of going anywhere fast anyway?
yeah, my attorney said to me when I started that copier company that I got sued for, he said a 1% partner is a 100% pain in the ass,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to walk into it understanding that. But um, I don't know that I would ever start another solo business. I know my shortcomings. I know where I'm at. I know that I understand the strength and the value of partnerships. They're not always fun. You will
Mm-hmm.
argue. You will fight. It's like a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
But and there are some guys out there who will say I would never get married again, and that's fair. But I ask the same question. Like if you're married and you're happy, think back. Would you get married again?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully not at the same time. But there's a world where I step back and say there's so much more power in picking the right business partner. I would have gone and found an operationally competent business partner in a heartbeat if I thought I could do it. The hard
Right.
part is um, at that stage I was too immature to know what a good partner looked like, and too egotistical for somebody to tell me I was too immature to understand what a good partner looked like. So you got to eat a little bit of humble pie and realize that you're bringing as much baggage to that relationship as your partner is. They have to put up with you as much as you have to put up with them. And Kyle and I joke about this all the time because Kyle and I fight like brothers
Mm-hmm.
inside of Empath. And but we are also the best of friends, and have a ton of respect for each other because Kyle is the operational guy that allows me to go be the you know pile of loose ends that generates revenue all over the place. That is what we're looking for. So there is somebody out there who compliments you, but don't go find that person out of desperation. Find that person when they are the right person who helps you solve the problem that exists in your business. And until you know what that problem is, finding a partner doesn't fix it.
That's right.
Because I would have, in my MSP days, I would have gone and found a COO to work for me and expected them to fix all the problems, right? In reality, the bottleneck's always at the top of the bottle. Yeah. And I was the bottleneck in that company for 17 years.
Well, let's do this, Alex. I appreciate your humbleness in that as well, and your self-reflection. Let's have a little bit of fun. We're going to do some just rapid fire, some hot takes. You mind playing along with this for a minute?
Sure.
All right. Now, you sit in a unique position in the industry. You can say pass on any of these. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we'll start with the first one. ConnectWise, Autotask, or Halo?
Oof. That's a tough question. It would be ConnectWise or Autotask. Right. I'm not excited about the new shiny things. I love the guys at Halo. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. They're wonderful folks. I would go ConnectWise. I am not excited about their position in the industry today. They've obviously, Kaseya is a formidable opponent. But ConnectWise is the devil I know. I know how to use it. I wouldn't have a learning curve. I wouldn't have to relearn it. It's what I ran my MSP on. Autotask could be a close second because I know it is immensely customizable. We had a lot of really good Autotask partners in my MSP or in my Lifecycle Insights days. Halo, I think, is still lacking the financial data that I need to make the right decisions at my MSP. And while it's an amazing product, they need some more finance stuff in that tool. It's an ITSM tool and not a finance and operations tool.
All right. Most overrated MSP tool right now?
Oof. That is a tough one. I'm going to say anything with AI in front of it.
Anything with AI in front of it.
Anything with AI in front of it, or at the end of it. Yeah, we're just not there yet. Those tools are not delivering value, and they're a huge distraction to the 7% net profit that most of you are making.
All right, most underrated tool you can't live without today or couldn't live without in your MSP days?
IT Glue, hands down.
IT Glue. All right.
Yeah. Screen Connect right behind it, but IT Glue hands down. IT Glue is a must-have tool in this space. Insert your documentation platform of choice there.
Right.
But that was the one that we lived and died by.
There you go. So here's one that should be an easy one. Documentation, love it or hate it?
Can't live without it.
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, absolutely. It is core to my life. Yes. My life is documented like a network. You're talking to a guy with 7,000 notes in OneNote.
Yeah. All right. Dark mode or light mode?
Dark mode. Light mode's for heathens.
I agree. For an MSP, outsource NOC or in-house?
It depends on your size.
Okay.
You can't do NOC in-house if you're the average $1.5 million MSPs. You have to spend $10 million to stand it up. You have to have 24/7 eyes on glass. AI is not ready to do that for you yet. I don't trust AI to watch the NOC while I'm at my 4th of July barbecue.
There you
go. Outsource it until you can spend $10 million. For the big guys out there, yes, go build your own. For the little guys, know your limits.
Outstanding. One financial KPI every MSP should track.
Oh, only one? I'm going to say revenue per technician.
Revenue per tech. All right. Very good. Most expensive mistake you've made, maybe in the MSP or wherever you're
at the top of your company.
Oh, okay. Very good.
It only cost me $200,000.
That's a big one. Okay. EOS, traction, or seat of your pants?
I don't care which framework you choose, but some framework. You can do EOS, you can do Pinnacle, you can do any of those. But some framework for making decisions and keeping leadership teams aligned is absolutely critical. We are a quasi EOS shop, minus the expensive EOS implementer and all that. But we have a Kyle, so
there you go. Perfect. How about hire for attitude or for skills?
Attitude.
All right. Very good. Best leadership.
You fire for attitude too.
Fire for attitude? Yes, that's right. Yeah. Best leadership lesson you learned the hard way?
Woof. Always make the hard decisions sooner. We can drag those things on, and you remember this. I had to fire a family member, and it was gut-wrenching. And I
Yes.
had damn near an emotional breakdown at a peer group meeting over it. Still bothers me to this day, but those are decisions that you have to make, and the longer you drag them out, the more they tear you up and cause frustration in the company.
Understood. How about, do you consider yourself more of a technician, operator, or visionary?
Well, I don't like any of those three.
All right.
Probably visionary, but that just sounds egotistical.
It does,
Um,
but I got you.
I am the distracted. I consider myself a seagull. I'm always chasing the next French fry, and I'm probably going to fly in shit all over your desk and leave and make a mess.
All right. We're going to get some spicy takes here. Is vendor sprawl out of control?
Yes, but buy my vendor anyway.
Yes, of course, except for yours. That's right. Do RMMs even matter anymore?
Yes,
Okay.
but we might be getting to a point where eventually they don't.
What will replace it, or what will
don't
do
know.
the job? What's that?
I don't know.
You don't know.
If I build my Google MSP, it gets replaced with Chromebook management that's already baked in. Microsoft may get there. MDM tools are just RMMs by another name, so there's nothing really there that replaces it. But my fear is that they're also the biggest, your biggest target.
All right.
You're your biggest risk.
So this one, now these were not written customized for you, but this one is popping up, and I got to kind of reframe it a little bit. True or false? I'll just read it as it is. True or false? No one actually reads QBR decks.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
True.
That doesn't have to be true, does it?
No, but most of our QBR decks suck. Most of them are an obituary, not a forward-looking strategic document. We patched all the patches and backed up all the backups and antivirused all the antiviruses, and nobody cares about that. A QBR deck, in my mind, is just an archive we can stick in the drawer and go look at if we need it. We typically give it to our customer because the regulator wants to make sure that we gave it to our customer. But we should be having a conversation that talks about their business, not about what we did for them.
Outstanding.
I could soapbox on that one for hours.
I know you could.
I may have soapboxed on that one for hours.
All right. Is compliance the next MSP gold rush or a dead end?
Somewhere in the middle. It's a devil we're going to have to deal with, but I wouldn't call it a gold rush.
Okay. All right. We're going to get real personal here for a moment, if you don't mind. Mac or PC?
Mac all the way.
All right. And how long has that been for you?
Yeah, I've become a Mac guy. Mostly it's because my little blue bubbles show up over here on my Mac, and my AirPods bounce back and forth between all my Apple devices. But it was the iPad that made me a Mac guy. It really was the seamlessness between the iPhone and the iPad just turned that Mac made sense.
Understood. All right.
Plus, I'm a soccer mom now, and all I want is for my stuff to work. I don't want to have to be a tech.
Yeah. All right. Coffee or energy drinks?
Coffee, but it's got to be on ice.
It's got to be on ice. All right. Very good. Last tech problem you couldn't fix yourself?
Oof. Most tech problems these days, I'm pretty. I wouldn't be able to pick one, but all the automations and things that we're building over here between HubSpot and all the rest of our tools and Slack and and ChargeBee and Stripe, Kyle does all that. He's way better at it than me. I am resigned to being the dumb sales guy.
There you go. Fair enough. All right, and we'll kind of we're going to do two more. What time do you stop working each night?
It depends. Somewhere between 4:30 and midnight. I'm a night owl. I am. Okay. My brain kicks into gear some nights at 8:00. Yes. And if I went to bed, I would lay there and stare at the ceiling all night. And it's when my email's not going off, my instant messages aren't going off. But I don't do it to a point where I give up my life for it anymore. I work a lot, but I love what I do, and I am very capable of turning it off for a week and walking away and finding that balance. So I don't worry so much about when I work or how much I work. I worry about my energy level, and if I wear myself down, I turn it off and walk away.
Yes, I love any conversation around energy levels. I am all in for.
It's taken me a long time to understand that and to get good enough at gauging my own energy level to figure out when work is tearing me down. But when my energy is at zero, I'm doing bad work anyway. So unless there's a real time-sensitive thing that I'm going to slog through, I'm probably not doing it. But I'm also a procrastinator, so it's not uncommon for me to be doing a presentation deck at 10 o'clock at night that I have to deliver at 9 o'clock the next morning.
That's right. That's right. All right. And we'll end with this one. You get 1 day off with 0 calls. How are you spending that day?
Probably sitting by the pool with my dog, feeding the fish in the pond out back.
There you go. There you go. That'll do. And is your volleyball game still on point? I know that was a big part of your life for a long time.
I haven't picked up a volleyball since I moved to Florida, and my knees don't hurt and my shoulder doesn't hurt, and I feel pretty good. So I'm not in a hurry to get back at it. I'll turn 50 next year, and I think I'm done.
Well, it does seem very opposite. In Delaware, we played lots of volleyball. In Florida, we play no volleyball. But
it's too hot to play down here.
That's that.
At least, I mean, we can probably play some great ball in February. But yeah, I think about it every now and again whether or not I want to go pick it back up. But I think there's just too many old and busted parts at this point.
There you go. Well, Alex, let's wrap this up, and maybe you'll find some words of encouragement to share with any MSP owners out there. We'll leave it with that.
Yeah, I'll just say, like, your business is a journey, and it is one of those things where you won't get it right every day. So when you get something wrong, take the time to reflect. The best thing I've ever been able to do is learn from my mistakes, because I've made a truckload of them. I try not to stub my toe in the same place twice, and that has led to a lot of success.
Right on, Alex. Appreciate your time and joining us today.
Thanks, buddy.